Item 7.2 is school closure of Sheffield Area Middle High School, grades 9 through 12. Can I please have a motion for that?
Move as presented.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Workman, seconded by Mrs. Passenger.
Can we discuss this at all?
Yeah, Mr. President, too, I know that the electronic voting system identifies and reports how each board member votes on each agenda item, but I'd suggest that for the next 4 items that the board secretary take an actual roll call vote.
Okay, so, I just want to say, to me personally, regarding some of my fellow board members, this feels like it's simply just to put a notch in your belt. And not necessarily have the best interest of the students, just to be able to say, I did what no other board could do. It's supposedly for, excuse me, equitable education, which again, I'd have to disagree with. We're living this, and that's what something is important to know, that my opinion, maybe to you guys, means nothing, but I'm living this currently. And just last week, for instance, a CP English that we're pushing so well, it has an average course grade of 71%. And they were told they asked too many questions, wasted too much time, so now they were on their own. I don't call that an equitable education, I call it a subpar education. Of these students from Sheffield are going back to base, their home base, and they are getting tutoring or going to these other teachers to ask for help. And why is that? Again, a 71% is not an acceptable grade. It's not acceptable. And another point I'd like to make out is these, just for the bus routes, if just say 40 minutes one way, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the hub, and then according to any GPS that I've found, it's at least 26 minutes. So the minimum they're on a bus, some of these kids are an hour and 11 minutes. We put that with the base of their day, their school time, they are now at 9 hours and 27 minutes. That is more than our employers ask of us without overtime pay. On top of that, these students are doing at least, and I say at least, and you're welcome to join me at home any night of the week, 3 hours of homework, at least. And I did talk to the administrators at Warren High about this, and was told they're just hard classes, and the teachers are teaching from the minute they're in the classroom, but to get through the course description, that's what's necessary. Understood. But again, 3 hours of homework at the minimum. So now we're up to, what, 12 and a half hours? What, God forbid they play volleyball, track, or what? What are we expecting of these kids? More than we expect of any adult. And again, I could get on board with consolidation if you could show me what we're offering. So the only thing that I can see that especially we're offering to Youngsville, we're offering them emotional distress, financial stress, and a lack of community support. That's the only thing we're offering now. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes, I would like to say, the PSBA states that we should hear what the community and the teachers have to say. Our community has definitely been engaging. We've had a lot of public comment, and it's been well spoken. The thing that they left out is the word listen. The word heard defines the physiological act of sound. Comes in the ear, goes through the nerve, hits the brain. Listening is the actual interpretation and logistics of what is being heard. I feel like a lot of people are hearing, but they are not listening. with a discussion that I had with a member of the community when I questioned, why more people aren't speaking up, and they said, well, we can't do it without getting emotional. How could you? How could you do it without getting emotional? Your, teachers and your administrators in the building, they don't speak up. They may love where they're at, but it's an emotional issue, so we're not going to talk about it. We want, they just want cold hard facts. It's all got to be financial. It's got to be cold hard facts. I do recall when we had the public sessions in the gymnasium here, that a member of the city council stood up and folks from Warren were getting emotional. How can you expect us to not be emotional? You can't take the emotion out of it. You're okay with pushing kids 30 plus hours, a week, doing their school and their athletics and travel time, but you're not okay with ripping the heart out of their community. And that's all I have.
First of all, fair warning, no one should give a mic to an English teacher, especially one with a theater background. However, that aside, whether you believe it or not, this has been a very difficult decision. There is no easy answer, regardless of what some people may think. I do not believe for one moment that any of my fellow board members decided to run for the school board so they could close schools. I know I've been told, as has the rest of the board, that we were elected to represent you. And that is absolutely true. Region 3 members represent Youngsville. But I'm not sure how many of you realize that we also represent Eisenhower. There is no way that we could, it doesn't matter what we do, there is not an answer that will please everyone. Someone is going to be unhappy. Even if we stay with the status quo right now, there is actually a very large, mostly silent faction that have been emailing, texting, calling, asking us to please not back down, that we need to consolidate now. So there really is no easy answer that will please everyone. I've said several times that it's not about the money, but rather the quality of the education we are offering. I actually thought it was pretty funny how quickly people jumped on my comment about foreign language being required for college. I'm not quite sure why everyone was so excited to tell me I was wrong. My husband tells me I'm wrong all the time. I did, out of curiosity, call Edinburgh and speak to the admissions counselor there. She did in fact say that it was not required, but it is still considered part of the college prep sequence, and they encourage students to take at least a couple of years. She also said that most students don't decide until their senior year or close to that as to what, if they want to go to college and what college they're going to. Every college is different. If your child chooses a college where they require language, it's too late to get it at that point. One of the ideas is that what I find a little sad, and I've said this before, is the idea that students should only take courses that they have to. One of the ideas that teachers try to instill is the love of learning for the sake of learning, not because you really have to have it. Way too many times to count. Students are enrolled in a class they really don't want, but they need the credit. And teaching an elective, I quite often had kids that way. Then the class opens a whole new world to them. They find out things that they never would have thought of trying, that they've been exposed to in that class. The world is constantly changing, and students need to be prepared for this, even if the adult in their life never had to be. Again, this has been a very difficult decision for me, and while I can't speak for my fellow board members, I'm pretty sure they feel the same way.
Mr. President, I consider myself one of the luckiest people alive, and part of the reason for that is that I was born in Warren County. And in addition to that, I'm probably one of the few people who's had the privilege of working in almost every community in Warren County over the course of my life. Unfortunately, Warren County is in a struggle, and we have been in a struggle since 1970. Our population in Warren County has declined every single census since 1970. And here's one of the biggest reasons why people are choosing to leave our community. And it is the lack of quality education that our And I would also like to stress that there is a silent majority. Our school district serves over 30,000 citizens. And we have an obligation as a board to do what is in the best fiduciary interest of all of the people that we represent. And while we can treasure and cherish and always hold what has made Warren County what it is, such a wonderful place, we have to look to the future. We have to work together as one Warren County if this county is to be able to turn the tide that we have faced since 1970. And I respectfully ask my board colleagues to join me in voting yes on these next four motions.
Way to go, Senator. Way to go, Senator.
Any more comment from the board?
Our jobs, I feel, in this, being a director, is to try to grow the Warren County School District. And I feel that these motions right here are gonna do nothing except make the Warren County School District not be able to grow. Our job is to try to, engage the communities, try to grow each school within the district. And I think for the past, you said since 1970, we've been declining. It seems every year we're always faced with this. It's always, ever since I was in school, it's always been held, well, I think we're gonna close Youngsville, I think we're gonna close these schools. Who wants to come to a school district where you're constantly put within that? If we pass this today, 5 years from now, a couple years from now, it's gonna be Eisenhower on the chopping block.
Yep.
Because we're just going to do the same thing. And then we're constantly saying, oh, we need to improve, we need to grow this school district. This is not gonna help grow the school district. This is gonna hinder it more. Because we put more restrictions on people looking at Warren County and saying, hey, that's a great place to grow. Because it won't grow. Because nobody wants to come here because this constant turmoil. Every year we're in this for the past 20, 30 years. How do we expect ourselves to grow if we continue to rip ourselves down? We need to start putting back into each school, into the communities to try to help grow everything. I can't support these motions on a few things. I don't think the plans that we've put forth are diligent. I mean, we just got the transportation plan last week, and I don't think the last meeting, I don't think we fully got all the information that we really need for all this stuff. There's lots of questions that I still have on certain things. I know there's other questions that people will have about this. That's one of the main concerns that I have, is the planning that we're putting into this right now. This is a lot of kids we're looking to move, and I don't feel like we've put enough thought behind all these decisions that are being made right now. I'd like to see more information on this, because I don't think we've got all the information we really need, even me, but that's why I'm not supporting this right now.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we've had comment, and let me just reiterate, a yes vote.
What's your opinion, Paul?
Is to close Sheffield Area Middle High School. A no vote is to keep it, remain open. And so without further ado, you have it.
Mrs. Snell,
No.
Mr. Sullivan,
No.
Mr. Wortman,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Cochran,
No.
Mrs. Holden,
No.
Mr. Linvay,
Yes.
Mrs. Mr. Mangione, apologize.
Yes.
Mrs. Passenger,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, 7.3 is assigning students from Sheffield Area Middle High School, grades 9 through 12, to Warren Area High School. Could I please have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Passenger, second by Mr. Wortman. Discussion here.
Is that gonna be their only option, is to go to Warren, or is it gonna be more, Mr. Weber had talked before about kind of easing the boundary lines, would they have the option to go, say, to Eisenhower or somewhere else if they wanted to?
We would be utilizing the transfer policy that currently exists.
Is the transfer policy gonna be, as stringent, or will that be, will it be different?
We're gonna be working on it, but, we're gonna revise some procedures to it, but, we're working
Would there be any, like is there any assistance available if they choose to go to Kane or no?
Any other comments?
No.
Could we please call that?
Mrs. Passenger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snell,
No.
Mr. Sullivan,
No.
Mr. Wortman,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Cochran,
No.
Mrs. Holden,
Definite no.
Mr. Linvay,
Yes.
Mr. Mangione,
Yes.
motion passes.
Item 7.4 is school closure of Youngsville Middle High School, grades 9 through 12. Can I please have a motion for that?
Move as presented.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Wortman, second by Mrs. Passenger. Discussion here.
Do we see the kids' faces? I just wanna make sure everyone's looking at the kids.
Any other discussion?
These are the lives you're ruining. All these guys and gals standing up.
Money. You guys have kids of your own?
Could we please call?
Put yourself in. Look at all that money you're saving.
Yes.
Mrs. Passenger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snell,
No.
Mr. Sullivan,
No.
Mr. Wortman,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Please no, please no, please no, please no, please no.
I know, Cody.
Ms. Cochran,
Shame on.
Mrs. Holden,
No.
Mr. Linvay,
Yes.
motion passes.
Wow. Thank you for listening to me. You guys are
Thank you
awesome.
guys.
Shame on you guys.
Shame on you!
Shame.
Assigning students from Youngsville Middle High School, grades 9 through 12, to Eisenhower Middle High School.
You're all ready to Youngsville. All the results.
Second.
I'm junior. I could attend the Warren County Career Center for the Health and Med. Have you thought into accountability of how long I will be on the
Excuse me,
bus?
this is a board meeting, we have board.
Board meeting, you're supposed to be the community, but you're not listening to the students. You're not listening to the ones who you're putting in jeopardy. I don't know if you remember, but I presented a speech back in October about how adolescence is affected by a larger school. I will be going PA Cyber. Anyone else can raise their hand if you are going PA Cyber.
Mr. President, I respectfully ask that the meeting be gained control of.
Once
I am
again,
going to Pittsburgh University for neuroscience.
item 7.5, assigning students from Youngsville Middle High School grades 9 through 12 to Eisenhower Middle High School. Is there a motion?
Mrs. Passenger.
Moved by Mrs. Passenger, seconded by Mr. Wortman. Any discussion from school board members?
One last thing.
Could we please call that?
Mr. Lindsay,
Yes.
Mr. Mangione,
Yes.
Mrs. Passenger, Mrs. Snell, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Wortman,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Cochran, Mrs. Holden.
No.
Motion passes.
There will be public comment at the end of the meeting.
We're gonna listen to you then.
Alright, we got a public comment.
I have a question.
We're gonna have
I didn't know if you were there yet.
we're not.
Okay, sorry, I was
We're
just-
going to have a brief executive session to go over